Chapter 14, Capricorn Anderson. It was true. I now knew 129 people, but in a school of 1,100, that hardly made a dent. Rain always said, don't give up and don't give in. Of course, she was talking about civil rights or protesting a war or something, but I was sure it counted for this too. The good news was that there were more students coming up to me, which was a chance for me to ask their names. Usually they wanted to talk about the time I drove Mr. Rodrigo to the hospital. I was amazed that people seemed less interested in Mr. Rodrigo's recovery than the details of how he got to the emergency room. Rain explained it to me the last time I spoke to her on the phone. That's society for you, Cap. Following the rules is more important than living your life. The law says you can't drive until you're 16, so if somebody does it, it's a huge deal. You should feel sorry for these poor kids. They're prisoners and they don't even know it. That explains why Sophie is so obsessed with getting her a license, I concluded. Exactly. What's a license? A piece of paper? That's the real story, Cap, that we've allowed ourselves to be enslaved by our own laws. She was so sensible. I wish I could have talked to her 20 times a day. It was almost like I was piloting a ship through a blinding fog and Rain was an experienced captain. I wish I could have asked her how to play every wave, but it just wasn't possible. Are you feeling better? When can we both go home? Soon, Cap, she promised, and in the meantime, you stay true to yourself. Don't change because everybody around you is spiritually handicapped. I don't know this Sophie girl, but her mother, Flora Mundy, well, let's just say she wasn't one of Garland's bigger successes. They say the apple never falls far from the tree, you know? Rain, I reminded her gently, that sounds like a negativity trip. Rain taught me that when people are negative, they're trying to put duct tape on their own damaged souls. And while we were all for using duct tape on a drain pipe or a fender, it can never hold together something as important as a soul. You're right, she admitted with a sigh. It's hard to stay positive when you're surrounded by psychic zombies. I find myself slipping back to the dark ages before Garland. Yesterday I made a hand gesture to one of the so-called doctors. Let's just hope it was muscle memory from my taxi driving career. It made me feel so weird to hear Rain speaking ill about Sophie without even meeting her. Of course, I was partly to blame for that. I told Rain some of the mean stuff Sophie had done and said. I had to tell her the good about Sophie, but it was just hard to nail down. Like when Sophie smiled, just for that instant, there was almost no such thing as sadness. Would Rain even understand that? I wasn't sure I did myself. Everything about Sophie had a kind of shine to it. After years of studying art with Rain, I still couldn't remember a color as intense as the glitter polish Sophie painted on her toenails. Even her shelf in the bathroom was a wondrous sight, a skyline of bottles, tubes, jars, all shapes and hues. And the names. Passion fruit heel softener with volcanic pumice. Bird of paradise exfoliating scrub. Honey-infused moisturizing lotion with yang yang. I used her pomegranate shampoo with Giga volumizing power once, and when I looked in the mirror, I couldn't believe my eyes. My hair was standing straight up in all directions, a huge sphere of blonde fuzz surrounding me like a giant halo. I tried brushing it down, but all it did was crackle and stand even stiffer. Somehow, this Giga volumizing power filled your hair with static electricity if you stuck your finger in your light socket. To make matters worse, there was an urgent pounding, and Sophie snarled, "Get out of there! You're hogging the bathroom!" When I opened the door, she stumbled back 3 steps and gawked at me. I've heard of bad hair days, but wow, you look like your head exploded. I tried your shampoo, I confessed. She was disgusted. If you're going to use the Giga Volumizer, you've got to use the conditioner that comes with it. Otherwise, you might as well be pumping 10,000 volts through your hair. I must have looked completely helpless because she took pity on me. She grabbed a bottle, marched me to the kitchen, and shoved my head in the sink. As she wet me down with a vegetable sprayer, I could feel my hair collapsing from its planetoid shape. When was your last haircut? Sophie marveled. I've never had one, I replied. Never? Well, there was the one time I whacked my head on the pump handle of our well and Dr. Caffrey shaved part of my scalp so he could put in stitches. She poured on some sweet-smelling stuff and started to massage it. Who's he? Your pediatrician? No, the vet. The massaging hands froze. Do me a favor, she said finally. What you just told me, never repeat that to anyone, especially if they have child services on their name tag. My hair was fine after that, and I never again used anything from Sophie's beautiful bathroom shelf. But it wasn't because she said I couldn't. She even gave me some advice about cream for oily skin. I never touched it, though. I know when I'm playing with fire. I think she was in a better mood because her father was in town and her driving lessons were going well. Mr. Donnelly was a really nice person, although whenever he was around, his ex-wife looked pained and squinty like she was trying to read something off a sign that was very far away. Mr. Donnelly even took time to teach me some of his kendo positions. I couldn't wait to show them to Rain when we got back home. Another reason more people were speaking to me at school was this Halloween dance. Luckily, there was a dance on trigonometry and tiers, so I sort of knew what to expect. It looked like a lot of Rain's description of riots back in the 60s. Hundreds of people crammed belly to belly, waving their fists and shouting. I couldn't figure out why anyone would want to do that for fun, but they did. It was all they talked about. I don't know what kind of food to get for the dance, I asked for at least the 10th time. I don't even know people ate at a dance. I thought they danced. Yeah, but you need snacks and drinks and dessert, said Holly Van Arden, number 130. My neighbor goes to St. Andrews, and at their last prom, they had create your own pizzas. You design the pie, toss the dough, add the toppings, and it cooks while you're dancing. People are still raving about it. Well, I think we should have that, I decided. Go ahead and set it up. It's not cheap, she warned. They have to bring these giant ovens on wheels. I told her what Rain told me when I asked what would happen if we weren't able to afford our monthly trips for supplies. When you spend your life worrying about money, pretty soon money becomes your life. Cool, she exclaimed, and she took on the job. In the identical way, people volunteered to handle drinks, desserts, posters, and decorations. The next morning when I arrived at school to do my Tai Chi, Holly Van Arden asked if she could join me. Naomi was already there waiting for us.